Hello everyone, it's me Jamie and welcome to another video. Today's video is something that I personally am really excited about. I don't know how many other people like videos like this, but they're honestly like some of my favorite on BookTube, so I'm really excited. And today I'm going to be talking to you about some more of my most anticipated 2021 releases, but for the last half of the year. So none of these books have come out yet, but I am so excited for them to come out and I honestly cannot wait to read them. I did a video like this at the very beginning of the year, and most of the books that I talked about in that video have since come out, and I have actually read some of them, but if you're still interested in checking out that video, then I will obviously link it down below. But yeah, this is just kind of like a part 2 of that video. There is quite a lot of books coming out at the end of this year and quite a big variety, so I'm just going to get straight into it because I do not want this video to be too long. So yeah, let's just get started. The first book I have to share with you is We Can't Keep Meeting Like This by Rachel and Solomon, and this is releasing on the 8th of June. This is a YA romance. It's enemies to lovers. It's basically about two young teenagers whose parents have worked in like the wedding planning business ever since they were children. In our main character's last year of high school, our female main character confesses her love to our hero, to the boy, and he kind of leaves her on scene. They both then end up going off to college, and in this book we meet them and it's their first time seeing each other since this like awkward encounter has happened. So I believe a romance like blossoms over the summer from there. I think this book will be great for people in the Northern Hemisphere because it's like a little summer romance book. It'll be perfect to read on the beach. So yeah, I'm really excited to read this. I love an enemies to lovers moment, and all the wedding settings. Exactly. We love it. The next book I have to share with you is Girls at the Edge of the World by Laura Brooke Robson, and this is being released on June 8th as well. This is a YA fantasy. It also is a female-female love story, which we're so into, and I honestly don't know much about it except for the fact that we follow a recruit of acrobats who are trying to like escape into this new world because the world they're currently living in is about to be like destroyed. So I believe it's like a post-apocalyptic fantasy. The fact that we're following two lesbian acrobats, hello, very much into this, very much me. This just looks so nice. This is actually a debut author as well, so I'm really excited to read this. I've been so into the fantasy recently, and I've also been loving a lot of the female romances that I've been reading, so yeah, really excited to read this one. The next book is also being released on June 8th, and it is The Marvellous by Claire Can. This is a young adult mystery thriller about this like social media influencer who's like amazing. She's an actress, she's an heiress, she's everything. She starts a like reality TV show competition where 6 teenagers live in this mansion and compete for like a cash prize. But then I think something goes horribly wrong and money is not the only thing at stake. Exactly this book. I love reality shows, so I feel like a book about a reality show is just like so up my alley. I feel like this book will be so fun, and also I love books that feature like famous people and stuff like that. So yeah, we'll see how good this book is. We'll see how it integrates the social media influencer aspect of it, but I'm just really excited. And also this cover, exactly. Yeah, super excited for this one. The next book I want to talk about is For the Wolf by Hannah F. Witten, and I actually thought this book was being released later, but I just looked on Goodreads and it's actually being released on June 1st. So this is the first book that is going to be released out of all the books I'm talking about today. So that's some exciting news. I fully thought it was being released like way later on, but this is a fantasy retelling of Little Red Riding Hood. I believe it's like a romance between Red and the wolf, who is apparently like some sort of like evil prince. Hello? Red also knows how to like wield magic, and I think there's also some sacrificial elements to the book. I believe that Red has to go into the woods to sacrifice herself to the wolf, but when she meets the wolf, he's actually like not a bad guy. He's lovely, he's stunning, they fall in love. So this book, it just sounds like everything. I've never read a Little Red Riding Hood retelling. I don't actually read a lot of retellings, but this one just looks amazing. So very, very, very excited to check this one out. Next we have The Maidens by Alex McAllides. I believe that's how you pronounce his name. And this is being released on June 15th. Hello, Dark Academia. Exactly. I believe this book is about a society of young women who are studying at university, I believe at like Oxford or Cambridge, and they call themselves the Maidens, and the group is run by this really, really charismatic, stunning, handsome Greek teacher, this Greek professor. Follow our main character who's fascinated by the Maidens, but also believes that the professor is a murderer. So she's trying to like uncover the secrets and find out everything about this group and this professor. Sorry, this just sounds stunning. Like, this must be one of my most anticipated books for the rest of the year. I'm so excited to read this. It's a thriller, it's dark academia, it's everything, a campus novel, literally everything I love in a book. So 100% excited to read this book. Cannot wait. I hope you guys are excited as me because this just sounds incredible. Next we have Darling by Kay Ankrum, and this is being released on June 22nd. This is a young adult Peter Pan retelling. Exactly! I love Peter Pan, so this just sounds so good. I'm so ready for this. We follow our main character, Wendy Darling. She is out on the town in Chicago and she meets this charming boy called Peter. She decides to go out to the clubs with him, but he actually takes her to this place called the Underground, and that's where she meets like Tinkerbell and Hook and all those characters. I believe Peter is kind of presented as evil in this book, which we're kind of very much into. So this book just looks stunning. I cannot wait to read this. I haven't read anything by Kay Ankrum, but I know that they're a really popular author. So I am beyond excited to check this book out. And yeah, Peter Pan retelling, exactly. I've never read Peter Pan retelling. Like I said earlier, I don't really read retellings, but this just sounds so up my alley. So I'm very excited. Next we have Survive the Night by Riley Sager. This is being released on July 6th. If you've watched me for a little while, you know that I love Riley Sager. I think Riley Sager's thrillers are just really great. There's only been one that's been slightly disappointing, but all the other books by him that I've read, I've absolutely loved. So of course I'm excited to read this. I believe this book is set all in one night, which just sounds stunning. And it's also set in the 90s. Gorgeous. We follow a character called Charlie who gets in a car with this strange man who may or may not be a murderer. They're strangers to each other. And Charlie's honestly just trying to escape college because one of their best friends got murdered by someone known as the campus killer, like a serial killer, and they're just trying to escape. Honestly, from the sounds of it, it sounds like our strange man might be the serial killer. Honestly, who knows? But this just sounds so good. It sounds like such a fun kind of like classic slasher horror movie. So I'm so excited to read this. I honestly find that Riley Sager's books, when they lean more into that like slasher horror sort of genre, those are my favorites, opposed to like the mystery. So I'm very excited to read this. This just sounds amazing. Next we have another book by another horror author that I really love, and this is The Final Girl Support Group by Grady Hendrix. This is being released on July 13th, and as you've guessed, it's a horror. This book is basically about a group of 5 girls who are all like final girls. They've survived like a mass killing, and they kind of come together and befriend one another and support one another. But when one of the girls goes missing, their fears are confirmed. Someone is after them and someone is going to try and take the girls one by one. This sounds very similar to the book Final Girls by Riley Sager, but I loved that book, and it's going to be really interesting to see how a similar story is written in Grady Hendrix's style. So of course I'm so excited to read this book. I love the final girl trope. So yeah, unbelievably excited to read this. Yes, exactly. Next we have another thriller, and that is For Your Own Good by Samantha Downing. And this book is being released on July 20th. I've never read anything by Samantha Downing, but I know that she is a pretty popular thriller author, so I'm really excited to give her a go, and this book does sound really good. It's set at a prestigious private school. Exactly, dark academia yet again. I believe we follow like a murderous teacher, and I think one of the parents at the school goes missing, and our teacher is just like, I don't care, everyone's stay out of my way, I'm going to teach these kids and they're going to be stunning. So honestly, I'm all for evil teachers. This just sounds like such a good thriller. I'm really excited, and obviously, like I've said so many times, I love books set at private schools, at colleges, just like on campus. So this book just sounds amazing, and I cannot wait to check out this author and this new release by them. Next we have another book that I'm so excited for, and it is She Who Became the Sun by Shelley Parker Chan. This is being released on July 20th, and it is a historical fantasy. Goodreads says that this is a reimagining of the rise of the Ming Dynasty, and it also says that it is a cross between like Mulan meets the Song of Achilles. Hello, that sounds amazing. Honestly, ever since reading The Poppy War, I have been really into fantasies that have a very historical, factual-based element to them. So I'm very excited to check this out. I think it'll be very dense, very exciting, and just so action-packed. This also features a female-female romance, so I love a bit of that sprinkled into my fantasy. So beyond excited to read this. This is another one of my most anticipated for the rest of the year. So as soon as this comes out, I will be getting my hands on it. I just think this just sounds amazing. It looks so good. Next we have The Dead in the Dark by Courtney Gold. This is being released on August 3rd and it is a young adult horror. I'm loving horror at the moment, as we can see. We follow our main character who is the daughter of a famous TV star who's like a ghost hunter. He has like a ghost hunting reality show, and when they get to this new town where teenagers have been mysteriously disappearing, our main character decides to take things into her own hands. I think our main character also meets up with a town local, one of the teenage boys, and they try and like hunt this like ghost that might be taking these teenagers away. I love a good ghost story, love a good like two young people teaming up to do what the adults can't, and I just love horror, and this sounds amazing. Small town horror vibes, exactly. So excited to read this book. Cannot wait for its release. Next we have A Lesson in Vengeance by Victoria Lee. This is also being released on August 3rd, and it is a young adult fantasy. This is another female-female romance, exactly. And it's also set at a boarding school, and the boarding school is haunted by its like past involving witchcraft. Exactly. I'm sorry. Most word used in this video is exactly, because I just agree with every single concept that I'm presenting to you. I believe we follow our main character whose girlfriend unfortunately died the year before, so she took a break off school, but now she's back at the boarding school and there is a new girl that won't leave her alone and is obsessed with the occult history of the environment and of the boarding school. This just sounds so stunning and I'm so excited to read it. And honestly, if anyone else has any like witchcraft themed novels, please recommend them to me, because I just feel like I'm so into that concept. Exactly. Next we have Velvet Was the Night by Silvia Moreno Garcia, and this is being released on August 17th. I recently read Mexican Gothic like literally a week ago and loved it so much. So of course I am so excited for this author's new book. I believe this is more of a mystery thriller than a horror, but it is set in 1970s Mexico City. Stunning. Our main character is a secretary to someone who I believe is like quite powerful, quite high up. She is really interested in like gossiping about other people and like the gossip of people's love lives, and she gets really invested in this one like piece of juicy gossip, and then the woman that she's gossiping about goes missing, so she decides to try and like solve this mystery. Honestly, this just sounds so fun. I've only read one book by this author, but I already love her main characters. I feel like they're always really cool, kind of like hyper feminine, powerful women. And I'm really into that, especially because a lot of her books are set in like, you know, not exactly present day, they're set in the past. So it's at a time when being hyper feminine while also being powerful was really frowned upon. So I really like the kind of social commentary that our author talks about in her books when talking about feminism and these powerful female characters as well. So really excited to read this one. I just feel like it's going to be all the things that I liked about Mexican Gothic and a new mystery thriller, so very into that, and yeah, cannot wait to get this book. Next we have The Bones of Ruin by Sarah Rawley. This is being released on the 7th of September and it is a fantasy and the first book in a new fantasy series. Our main character is an African tightrope dancer who lives in Victorian London. So she's very used to kind of being considered an outcast. But what people don't realize is the main reason she's an outcast is because she is immortal. She cannot die. Eventually the world starts ending. And so I think this like committee in this fantasy world holds this really like macabre tournament of like freaks, and they kind of have to fight till the death, and then the person that wins will like be their salvation. This just sounds crazy dark and twisted. but so good. So I am so beyond excited to read this book. I've never read anything by this author, and I've actually never heard of this author before, but as soon as I saw this book pop up on Goodreads, I was like, I have to read this. This sounds so me. So yeah, beyond excited to read this one. Cannot wait. Next we have Act Cool by Tobly McSmith. This is a young adult contemporary releasing on the 7th of September, and our main character is a trans teenage boy whose dream is to be an actor. I personally am an actor, so books about people whose dream is to be actors, or just about acting, about movie stars, about any of that stuff is just so what I'm into. I love reading about that sort of stuff. Our main character gets into a very prestigious acting school in New York, but his conservative parents are really not keen on letting him go, but he eventually wears them down. But unfortunately they say that he can only go if he promises not to transition. This ends up being a really, really hard journey for our main character, and he makes that promise to them, but I think it's going to be a really interesting journey about identity and following your dreams, and also just choosing whether a certain sacrifice is worth the dreams they're pursuing. I feel like this is going to be a really, really heartbreaking novel, but one that I'm really excited to get into. I think this book just looks stunning, and I'm just so excited to read this. This is also a Own Voices novel, so I can't wait to get my hands on this. It just looks amazing. The next book I want to talk about is The Shardy Setup by Lily Vale. This is a adult rom-com, like romance contemporary, releasing on September 7th. Our main character has, in her eyes, the perfect boyfriend, but her mother believes that her boyfriend is wrong for her. So to prove her mother wrong, our main character signs up, her and her boyfriend, for this matchmaking website to try and prove to her mother that they are like the perfect couple, until, in an awful twist of fate, our main character is matched up with her ex, who her mother loves. So she now has to like live through this horrible situation while also kind of reconfronting her feelings for her ex and why her mother like hates her boyfriend so much, and it just sounds crazy, full of drama. I'm obsessed with it. I love a second chance romance, so I'm really hoping this is where this story goes. I think that'll be really exciting, and yeah, I'm just so excited to read this. This looks so good, and I'm obsessed with the romance at the moment. I love a good rom-com, so this just sounds like everything I'm after. Next we have White Smoke by Tiffany D. Jackson. This is being released on September 14th, and I believe this is a YA fantasy. No, I lied. It's a YA horror. Exactly. I'm reading the Goodreads synopsis, but I have read so many Goodreads synopsis in the past half hour filming this video that my brain isn't really comprehending. But what I can tell from this story is that I believe our main character moves with her family to this small town, and it's haunted by ghosts. Obviously, I love a ghost story. There've been a lot of ghost stories featured in this video, and also the Goodreads synopsis says that it's The Haunting of Hill House meets Get Out. So I love that. Get Out is such an amazing movie, so I'm so excited to see what this book brings to us. It just sounds amazing, and I cannot wait. Next we have All These Bodies by Kendar Blake. This is being released on September 21st, and it is another YA thriller. Basically, this book is set in a small town in Minnesota. Our main character is a 15-year-old girl who ends up being the victim of a mass killing, but she's the only person that survives. Her entire family is murdered, and the sheriff of the town finds our main character covered in blood, but not a drop of it is hers. She is silent to everyone except for this sheriff. So now this sheriff and this teen girl are kind of teaming up to figure out what happened. I believe a very similar case happened like 50 or 60 years ago. So they're also trying to uncover the past as well. This just sounds so good. I love the dynamic of this like really jaded older man and this like teen girl teaming up and having that kind of like father figure daughter situation, but being on the same team. I kind of love that. It reminds me very much of Vicious by V.E. Schwab. So this book just sounds really fun, and obviously I love a thriller and I love when it's set in a small town, so I'm so excited to read this one. The next book I want to talk about is For All Time by Shanna Miles, and this is a young adult fantasy romance that's being released on September 28th. This book sounds so heartbreaking, so tragic. Basically, we follow our two main characters. They live through 1,000 lifetimes, Each lifetime is different, but in every single one, they are in love and they are together. They are trapped in this vicious cycle of constantly being together and then losing each other, and they basically have to relive tragic love story after tragic love story until they find out what breaks the cycle. On this journey to breaking the cycle, they kind of have to also realize, can they actually make the sacrifice and lose each other for the last time? This sounds so heartbreaking. I cannot get over how sad this is going to be, but it also just sounds so up my alley. I love, love, love the sound of this. I love stories that take place over different decades and centuries. So I think this book is just going to be so stunning. I love the sound of this, and I haven't seen anyone else talk about it. I feel like we should all get on this. We should all get on this book because it sounds perfect. It sounds like the perfect book. Yes, exactly. Speaking of perfect books, the next book I want to share with you is You've Reached Sam by Dustin Thau. This is a young adult contemporary releasing on November 2nd. This also, I just know, is going to be heartbreaking. I'm sure a lot of you have seen this cover around before on Twitter because people are going crazy over this cover, and as they should. Basically, we follow our main character who is in this beautiful relationship with her boyfriend Sam until one day he tragically dies. She lives through the grief, she goes to the funeral, she throws out his things, and then one day she wants to hear his voice one more time. So she calls his phone expecting it to go to voicemail, but miraculously Sam picks up the phone. She now is like living her life while having these phone calls with her dead boyfriend all the time. She's given a second chance at love, a second chance at connecting with this person that meant everything to her. I think it's going to be so heartbreaking. I have no idea what's going to happen. I have no idea what's going to go on in this book, but I know it's just going to make me sob. I don't even know if I will be emotionally prepared for this book by November 2nd, but I'm willing to give it a go. This book just sounds amazing. Amazing. And I can't wait to read it. And I'm sure you guys all love the sound of it, so let's all read it and cry together. Next, we have All of Us Villains by Amanda Foody and Christine Lynn Herman. This is being released on November 9th, and I believe it's a YA fantasy. This has very much Hunger Games vibes. Basically, we follow 7 very rich elite families, and every year they nominate someone in the family to go into a tournament to fight to the death. Once someone has won the tournament, that family now has control over the city's entire source of magic and power. This book just looks crazy. It looks like it's going to have so many like dark characters and dark twists and turns, and it just sounds so exciting. So I'm so excited to read this. This one just looks like very me. Very me. I love an unlikable cast of characters, so I can't wait to read this. I've also read nothing by these authors, but I know that they're really popular, so I think this is probably going to be the first book I read by them to give these authors a go. I'm so excited. And finally, the last book I want to talk to you about is If This Gets Out by Sophie Gonzalez and Cale Dietrich. This is a contemporary being released on December 7th. Basically, we follow a really famous boy band. Love those vibes, absolutely love them. And it's a romance between 2 of the boys in the boy band. So it's them dealing with fame, dealing with their management, dealing with being in the public eye, but also being closeted and having to hide their relationship from the public while being like super famous. This book sounds heartbreaking, but also really fun. I love those sort of stories about like famous people, so cannot wait to read this. I read something by Sophie Gonzalez recently and I quite liked it, so I'm really excited to give this author a go again and also read a book by this other author that I haven't read from yet. So I think this is going to be really, really, really fun. So those are all the books I have to share with you. If you've been watching this video from the beginning, thank you. Congratulations for making it this far. I feel like it's been a really long one. I have been filming for over an hour, and the light source has been getting slowly worse and worse. So I love that for me. But yeah, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you have some fun and new exciting novels that you are excited for. Let me know down below the book that you're most excited for that's releasing in the later half of 2021. Another reminder that all my socials are linked down below, so make sure you follow me and say hi to me on those. I'm very active on Twitter and Twitch and Discord and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, thank you so much for watching this video again, and I will see you very soon in another one. Bye!
But she said, Cindy, don't cry, and I don't wanna